Gentlemen, let us have a candid conversation. I am Dr. Sage Sr. Have you ever walked into a room with a clear purpose, only to stand there in the center of the rug, staring at the walls, wondering what on earth you were looking for? Have you ever been in the middle of a story you have told a dozen times, only to have the name of a lifelong friend or a simple word like apple or wrench suddenly vanish from your mind? In our culture, we have a name for this. We call it a senior moment. We laugh it off with our peers. We tell ourselves it is just part of the deal of getting older. But I'm here to tell you something that your primary care physician might not have mentioned during your last 15-minute checkup. That mental fog, that slight loss of edge, that feeling that your brain is just a few seconds behind where it used to be, it is not an inevitable consequence of time. Your brain does not have an expiration date. It is not designed to simply start shutting down once you hit 60. What is actually happening is far more logical and, fortunately, far more treatable. Your brain is starving. It is suffering from a specific, localized famine. Imagine a high-performance aircraft. It has the best engines, the most sophisticated navigation systems, and a pilot with decades of experience. But if the fuel line is restricted, or if the electricity that carries signals from the cockpit to the wings is intermittent, that plane is going to struggle to stay in the air. For many of you watching this, the fuel line to your cognitive function has been narrowing for years. There is one specific nutrient, one vital spark plug for your neurological system that becomes nearly impossible for the male body to process efficiently after the age of 60. Without it, your neurons lose their insulation, your brain volume actually begins to shrink, and the vibrant, sharp man you were at 40 begins to fade into a haze of confusion. In this presentation, I'm going to reveal exactly what this vitamin is. But more importantly, I'm going to explain why the standard blood tests you have been getting are likely giving you a false sense of security. We are going to discuss the hidden biological trap that prevents you from absorbing this nutrient from food, and I will provide you with the exact protocol to clear the fog and reclaim your mental sharpness. This is about more than just remembering where you put your keys. This is about preserving your independence, your dignity, and your role as the leader of your family. Stay with me, because what we are about to cover is the foundation of your cognitive legacy. To understand why the brain begins to struggle after 60, we have to look below the neck. Specifically, we have to look at your digestive system. In the medical world, we call this the 60-year cliff. When you were in your 20s and 30s, your stomach was an acidic furnace. You could eat a steak, and your body would efficiently break down the complex proteins and extract every microgram of nutrition. But as we age, a condition called hypochlorhydria becomes increasingly common. In plain English, your stomach stops producing enough hydrochloric acid. Now, why does this matter for your brain? Because the one vitamin your brain desperately needs is tightly bound to the proteins in the food you eat. It does not just float around freely. It requires a robust, acidic environment and a very specific protein called intrinsic factor to be released and absorbed into your bloodstream. By the time the average American man reaches 60, his production of stomach acid has often dropped by more than 50%. You might be eating the best organic, grass-fed beef in the world, but if your stomach cannot break the bond between the protein and the vitamin, that nutrient passes right through you. You are eating the fuel, but your engine is remaining empty. But the problem goes deeper than just acid. After 60, many men begin taking medications that act as silent saboteurs. If you take an antacid for heartburn or a proton pump inhibitor for reflux, you have effectively turned off the very mechanism required to feed your brain. If you are managing type 2 diabetes with metformin, you are taking a drug that is world-renowned for blocking the absorption of this specific vitamin. Let us talk about what happens inside your skull when this deficiency takes hold. Every nerve in your body is wrapped in a protective coating called the myelin sheath. Think of it like the rubber insulation around a copper wire. This insulation ensures that electrical signals travel at lightning speed from one neuron to the next. This specific vitamin is the primary raw material used to maintain that insulation. When you fall off the 60-year cliff and your levels drop, that insulation begins to fray. The wires in your brain become exposed. The electrical signals start to leak and short-circuit. This is why your processing speed slows down. This is why it takes you longer to find the right word. This is why your balance might feel a bit off. It is not that your brain is broken. It is that your wiring is losing its protection because of a digestive failure you didn't even know you had. The tragedy is that millions of men are misdiagnosed with early-stage dementia or simply told they are getting old, when in reality they are just suffering from a biological breakdown in nutrient transport. In the next section, I am going to reveal the identity of this vitamin, and more importantly, the specific form of it that can bypass your digestive issues and go straight to the neurons that are crying out for help. Now we come to the heart of the matter. The specific nutrient that your brain is starving for is vitamin B12. But before you think you know the whole story, I must warn you, not all B12 is created equal. If you go to a big box retail store and grab the first bottle you see on the shelf, you are likely wasting your money and, more importantly, failing your brain. Most low-cost supplements use a version called cyanocobalamin. This is a synthetic form of the vitamin that is literally bound to a cyanide molecule. While the amount of cyanide is tiny and not toxic in that dose, your body still has to work incredibly hard to strip that molecule away and discard it before it can use the vitamin. For a man over 60 whose metabolic processes are already slowing down, this is an unnecessary burden. What your brain actually craves is a form called methylcobalamin. This is the bioactive coenzyme form of the vitamin. In my practice, I call this the pre-activated key. It does not need to be processed or converted by your liver. It is ready to go to work the moment it enters your system. But here is why methylcobalamin is the gold standard for men in our age group. The blood-brain barrier. Your brain has a very strict security system that decides what gets in and what stays out. Cyanocobalamin often struggles to pass this security check. Methylcobalamin, however, has an all-access pass. It crosses that barrier with ease, heading straight to the neurons to begin the work of repairing that frayed insulation we discussed earlier. Furthermore, we must talk about a process called methylation. This is a complex biochemical dance that happens millions of times every second in your body. It is responsible for turning genes on and off, and most importantly for you, it is how your brain manufactures neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. If you have noticed that you are more irritable lately, or if you feel a sense of apathy or low-grade depression that you cannot quite shake, it might not be a psychological issue at all. It is often a chemical one. Without enough methyl donors from the right kind of B12, your brain simply cannot produce the chemicals that keep you feeling motivated, sharp, and happy. You aren't just losing your memory, you are losing your drive. By switching to the correct form of B12, we aren't just protecting your past, we are fueling your future. This is perhaps the most frustrating part of my job as a physician. I see men every day who tell me, "Dr. Sage, I just had my blood work done, and my doctor said my B12 levels are normal." I want you to listen very carefully to what I am about to say. The standard lab range for vitamin B12 in the United States is dangerously outdated. Most labs list the normal range as being between 200 and 900 picograms per milliliter. But for a man over 60, being at 200 or 300 is not normal. It is a state of emergency. In many other developed nations, such as Japan, the lower limit for B12 is closer to 500. They understand that when you fall into that low normal range, the brain begins to suffer long before the blood shows signs of anemia. I call this the gray zone. You aren't technically sick according to a lab chart, but you are also not cognitively functional. You are living in a state of subclinical deficiency where your brain is slowly withering while your lab report says everything is fine. So, if the blood tests are misleading, how do you know if the silent thief is stealing your cognitive health? You have to look at the physical clues your body is leaving behind. First, look at your hands and feet. Do you experience a sensation of pins and needles, or a slight numbness that seems to come and go? This is often the first sign that your peripheral nerves are losing their myelin coating. Second, pay attention to your balance. Do you find yourself reaching for a wall when you put on your trousers in the morning? Do you feel slightly unsteady when walking on uneven ground? This is not just a sign of getting old. It is a sign that the signals between your feet and your brain are lagging. Third, look in the mirror and stick out your tongue. A healthy tongue should have small bumps on it. If your tongue looks unusually smooth, red, or feels sore and swollen, that is a classic clinical sign of B12 deficiency called glossitis. Finally, we must revisit the medication trap. If you are on metformin for blood sugar management, or if you take a daily pill for acid reflux like omeprazole or Nexium, you are essentially living in a state of guaranteed B12 malabsorption. These drugs are incredibly effective at what they do, but they are also incredibly effective at starving your brain. The silent thief does not announce his arrival with a scream. He works in the shadows, slowly eroding your memory, your balance, and your mood, while hiding behind lab results that tell you everything is okay. It is time to stop settling for normal and start aiming for optimal. In the next section, I will show you exactly how to do that. Now that we understand the problem, let us discuss the solution. You do not have to accept a fading mind. We can take active steps to flood your system with the nutrients it requires. I call this the SAGE protocol, and it consists of 3 primary pillars: dietary shifts, strategic supplementation, and nutrient synergy. The first pillar is food. Even if your absorption is compromised, we want to provide your body with the highest quality sources of vitamin B12 possible. The gold standard is beef liver. I know it is not the most popular dish today, but in terms of nutrient density, it is nature's multivitamin. If you cannot bring yourself to eat liver, focus on clams and mussels, which have the highest concentration of B12 in the seafood kingdom. For your daily routine, prioritize grass-fed beef and whole eggs. Eggs are particularly important because they also contain choline, which works alongside B12 to support your brain's neurotransmitters. The second pillar is the most critical for men over 60, the delivery method. As I explained earlier, if you have low stomach acid or take certain medications, swallowing a standard B12 pill is often a waste of time. The pill will simply travel through your digestive tract without ever reaching your brain. Instead, you must use the sublingual method. Sublingual means under the tongue. By using a methylcobalamin droplet or a quick-dissolve tablet under your tongue, the vitamin enters your bloodstream directly through the mucous membranes in your mouth. This bypasses the stomach entirely. It is a biological backdoor that ensures your brain gets the fuel it needs, regardless of your digestive health. Regarding dosage, the standard recommended dietary allowance is often far too low for a man trying to reverse years of depletion. In my clinical experience, I often start men on 1,000 to 2,000 micrograms of sublingual methylcobalamin daily. Because B12 is water-soluble, your body is very efficient at flushing out what it does not need, making it remarkably safe even at higher doses. The third pillar is synergy. B12 does not like to work alone. It needs a partner called folate, or vitamin B9. However, do not confuse this with synthetic folic acid found in processed cereals. Your brain needs real folate found in dark leafy greens like spinach, kale, and broccoli. When you combine methyl B12 with natural folate, you create a powerful chemical reaction that lowers homocysteine, a toxic amino acid that is linked to brain shrinkage and heart disease. This is the ultimate defensive shield for your aging brain. As we draw this to a close, I want to speak to you man to man. We live in a society that often tells men that after 60, it is time to take a back seat. We are told that it is normal to become forgetful, to become slower, to lose that fire that defined our younger years. I am here to tell you that those people are wrong. Your 60s, 70s, and 80s should be the time when you are at your most formidable. You have the life experience, the wisdom, and the perspective that the world desperately needs. But you cannot share that wisdom if you are trapped behind a cloud of brain fog and fatigue. Protecting your brain is not just about health. It is about your legacy. It is about being the grandfather who remembers every detail of his grandson's ball game. It is about being the husband who remains a sharp, engaging partner to his wife. It is about being the man who can still solve complex problems and lead his community with a steady hand. The transition from confusion to clarity can be faster than you think. When you provide the brain with the specific bioactive nutrients it has been starving for, the lights can come back on, the fog can lift, the sharpness can return. If you have felt that something was missing, if you have felt that you were losing your edge, do not ignore that intuition. Check your medications, look for the physical signs of deficiency, and consider the sublingual protocol we discussed today. You are the steward of your own mind. Do not let a simple vitamin deficiency steal the best years of your life. Before you go, I have a question for you. Have you noticed any of the signs we talked about today, like the numbness in your feet or that persistent brain fog? Please share your experience in the comments below. I read them personally, and your story might be the exact thing another man needs to hear to take action. If you found this information valuable, please subscribe to join our community of men who are refusing to let age define their limits. I am Dr. Sage Sr. Stand tall, stay sharp, and I will see you in the next video.